Good day everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Mariette, also known as the Boervrou, and this video is all about my favorite fiber for knitting dishcloths. So I've been talking about making this video since I started this channel, and today is the day that I actually do it. So let me jump right into this video with all of the dishcloth patterns that I knitted and what fiber I've used, and then I will come to a conclusion at the end. I will put up pictures of all of the dishcloth patterns as I talk about them, and then I want to mention that all or most of these patterns were all designed for worsted weight cotton yarn, which I did not use. So my whole journey with this dishcloth knitting was that I've found for me that 100% cotton yarn dishcloths do not dry out properly between uses for the way I use them. So I wanted to make an experiment out of this dishcloth knitting journey of mine to see what fiber I like best and to see what fiber dries out in between uses best. Right, so I started knitting dishcloths from mostly Garlene from the kitchen sink shop on Ravelry's patterns. She usually hosts a year of dishcloth patterns which you receive in your email inbox every beginning of the month when you subscribe to her newsletter for these dishcloths, and that is how I started. So my first dishcloth that I knitted was the Icicles dishcloth by Garlene from the kitchen sink shop, and this is what my dishcloth looks like. Right, I used Kismet yarns, Summer Breeze 100% microfiber acrylic, which has 350 meters on 100 grams, and I've used this yarn a lot, so I'm not going to show the ball band every time, but anyway, that is what I used for this one, and I used the recommended needle size, which is a 3.25 millimeter for this dishcloth. Right, the second dishcloth that I knitted, I actually don't have it with me because it looks a bit bad. I've used it a lot. I will put up a picture here of the dishcloth that I knitted, and this one was knit with Moya 100% bamboo yarn. I think it's discontinued at this stage, but that is what I used for this one, and I knit it with a 3.5 millimeter needles. It is also the Icicles dishcloth pattern, and I used it a lot and I really like it. Alright, then the third dishcloth that I knitted is also a pattern by the kitchen sink shop, and this one is called Bloom Where You're Planted. Right, so for this one, I don't know what I did. I think I didn't make enough repeats for my thin yarn, but I also used the microfiber yarn, the same Summer Breeze yarn, and this is the little dishcloth that I made. I used 3.25 millimeter needles for this one, and yes, I think I should have made a repeat or 3 more, but doesn't matter, it still works for the use that I'm using it for. Right, so that is my third one. My fourth dishcloth is also by the kitchen sink shop, and this one is called the Wishes dishcloth. It looks like this. Sorry, my dishcloths look a bit used because they are very used. So this one has dried a little bit skew, and as you can see, because I'm knitting it at such a loose gauge, they tend to widen a lot, but I don't mind. It's just dishcloths and they work perfectly anyway if they wide or not. Right, so that is the third one. And I've also used the same microfiber yarn and a 3.25 millimeter needles for that one. Right, then I shifted things up a bit. So I then knit the log cabin dishcloth, also by the kitchen sink shop. And what I did for this one is I also used a 3.25 millimeter needles, but I held the microfiber yarn double. So I knit this one with 2 strands of the microfiber yarn, and this is what it looks like. I made a little color block type of dishcloth. And one thing that I can say about this one is it is nice and sturdy, and it doesn't stretch out width-wise that much. I think because it's knit on a tighter gauge, that is why it doesn't stretch out that much. But for me, this one especially does not dry properly between uses, so this one doesn't get that much use. But anyway, alright, so that is the log cabin dishcloth. Then I also made the harvest dishcloth by the kitchen sink shop. This is what mine looks like. You can see it's also used a lot because I suspect it's got a little hole in there from all the use. But anyway, so that is the harvest dishcloth. I also used the same microfiber yarn for this dishcloth with a 3.25 millimeter needles. And as you can see, I knit a lot of dishcloths with this microfiber yarn because I was looking for a use for it, and I still have a heap left and a little bit of the green. So anyway, right, so then I decided I need to test out other fibers as well. Then I designed my own dishcloth, which is called the rustic dishcloth, and I knitted up with this, I knitted up with this Venus Serena 100% bamboo yarn, which is hand dyed in South Africa. It is a 4-ply sport weight, and it's got 111 meters on 50 grams. I think this colorway was called Garnet, if I remember correctly. Things all over this cloth. Anyway, so this is the dishcloth. As you can see, again, it stretches a little bit width-wise, but that is absolutely fine for me. Especially the 100% bamboo one is a little bit, stretches a little bit more width-wise. But as I said, it's just a dishcloth, so I don't really mind. And this works very nicely as well. It's very interesting to me that if you use 100% bamboo yarn, when I wet this, it becomes stiff like a board. And the texture actually helps to scrub away the dirt very nicely. And that is why I added the texture to this dishcloth. Alright, so that is the dishcloth, and I knitted with 3.5 millimeter needles. Then I decided, alright, now I've tried the bamboo, now I must try something else. So I then grabbed this Moya shimmer yarn, which is a 50% bamboo, 50% cotton blend. It is also a South African hand-dyed yarn. And I used the colorway Ophelia, and I knit the rustic dishcloth again. And this is actually the cloth that I used for the pattern picture. This was also knit with a 3.5 millimeter needles, and I really like this combination of yarn. It works very well. So that is the 8th one, I think, by now. Alright, and then I decided, okay, I should not be nasty to cotton. So I grabbed this L Premier 4-ply 100% mercerized cotton from my stash, and I knit the rustic dishcloth for a 3rd time. And that is what this one looks like. There is a little bit of a size difference although I use the same stitch counts. As you can see there, it's a little bit smaller. I suspect it's because the mercerized cotton, the process of making the yarn makes it a bit more sturdy so that it doesn't stretch that much. I think that's why they used to use the mercerized cottons for making tablecloths, because it's got more strength to keep its shape. So this one basically looks the same as the moment when I knit it. So I made this one as well with the 4-ply 100% mercerized cotton, using a 3.5mm needles as well. Right, so that is the stack of dishcloths that I knitted. Let me just do that so that you can see them all. Okay, so that is the stack. And then I used these dishcloths every day for when I started making these dishcloths. So it's been, I don't think it's been a complete year, but it's not very far from a year, at least 8 months that I've used these dishcloths and saw how they did and really put them through the test so that I can come to a conclusion on what fiber I like best for making dishcloths. So my problem with dishcloths, knitted dishcloths in particular, was that I thought that cotton yarn dishcloths become stinky, because that was my experience in the past. Because I also used worsted weight yarn, or like a chunky type of yarn that requires like a 5mm needle to knit it up, and those just did not dry properly, and in the evening I would use it in the morning for washing the breakfast dishes, and in the afternoon it will still be wet, and then when you use it again in the next morning it will still be wet, and by the second day in the afternoon it is stinky. And then I got very discouraged with knitted dishcloths, and I really love the idea of knitted dishcloths, so this made me very sad until I started my knitting journey a bit better. And I now realize that the problem is not the fiber content, but the thickness of the yarn and the tightness of the gauge that it is knitted on. So my conclusion for my favorite fiber for making dishcloths is the following. My first choice is the bamboo cotton mix from Moya Yarns. I'm sure any bamboo cotton mix will do in the same yarn weight, and this is a 4-ply weight. It has got 125 meters on 50 grams. So that is my first choice now for knitting dishcloths. And the other reason why I like this one so much is when I wet this cloth and I wipe my countertop with it, I don't have a streak of water drops all over the counter. It actually wipes it clean and dry at the same time. So that is why I love this one the most. Then my second choice is the 100% bamboo, because of its ability to become stiff as a board and scratch better with a texture to clean the dishes very nicely. They do dry out basically the same amount of time, and when I use it in the morning for washing the dishes after breakfast, by the afternoon it is dry and I can use it again. So it properly dries between uses. Alright, then I went over to the cotton, and I would say the mercerized cotton is my third choice, because it holds its structure, its shape very nicely, and because it is still a natural yarn. I'm not sure what the implications of the mercerizing process or whatever is, but I do like it a lot. And then the fourth choice for me would be the microfiber, just because it is not a natural yarn, but it works very well for what its purpose is as a dishcloth. So that is more or less my favorites for now that I have discovered on my little journey with these 4 different types of fibers. I did not make a plain normal 100% cotton yarn dishcloth that is not mercerized, so I will have to try that in the future. But what I also wanted to say is that, as I said previously, my problem was that the dishcloths do not dry properly between uses, and I did get that same problem with the microfiber yarn with this dishcloth that was held double, where I knitted with 2 strands of the yarn. This dishcloth also does not dry between uses for the way I use it. If I used it in the morning, this afternoon it will still be wet, and if I use it again tomorrow morning, it will still be wet and it will never dry. So I can only use this once a day to have it dry properly in between uses. So it also seems that the problem is not the yarn or fiber content, it is the thickness of the yarn and the gauge that it has been knitted on. So that is my experience with dishcloths and the fibers that I use to knit mine. I would love to know if you use knitted dishcloths in your kitchen and what you think of them. Do you like them? Do you dislike them? And what is your experience been? Do they become stinky? You know, I would love to know what you think of this. So please give me a comment down below on your thoughts. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you would like to see any more of my content. And I will see you in the next one. Until next time, happy crafting. Bye.